So why can we remember the words to our favorite song as a child, but yet we cannot remember where we put our keys just 10 minutes earlier? The problem with memory loss isn't age, but something that's been nicknamed more recently as leaky brain, or issues around the blood-brain barrier.
The blood-brain barrier, which is this area of the brain that protects it from getting injured by, pathogens and
Right.
that we kind of get exposed to all the time. And what happens as we age is that this barrier gets weaker because of the exposures to things like tobacco and alcohol and chemicals and just stress. When the blood-brain barrier starts to get a little more leakier, then things are getting into the brain that shouldn't, can now damage the brain.
What is it that we can do to really fortify that blood-brain barrier in order to protect us and not have those situations where we're staring at our best friend and can't remember their name?
Right. The most important thing is you have to be balanced, right? Keep those sugars low, keep those bad trans fats out of the diet, exercise, strength training, a lot of really good nutrients and antioxidants to keep that blood-brain barrier strong.
The blood-brain barrier is this network of cells providing this fortification. And as I understand its role and function, it keeps out those inflammatory agents that can wreak havoc with our neurocognition. When I was learning to fly helicopters and having some brain dysfunction in terms of the amount and volume of information and retention that was required, you were the one that led me down the road on mitochondria and really powering up the mitochondria, because after all, memories are electrical signals. Those impulses need to travel through healthy cells. And what you were explaining to me is that the density of mitochondria inside the brain cells is particularly high in comparison to the rest of the body. Is that correct?
You're absolutely right. I mean, besides the heart, the brain is just packed with them. Some people say mitochondria. I remember that from high school biology class. We think of it as the powerhouses of the cells because it does produce energy. It's the area of the cell that breaks down your food, like your carbohydrates and your fats, and produces energy. But it's also the brains of your cell because it senses what's going on inside and outside of the brain. And it also has its own DNA separate from the DNA in the cell. And what we know about mitochondria is that every age-related disease, every disease you can think of has some form of mitochondrial dysfunction. The cells aren't healthy. They're not working well. Brain cells, the neurons need a lot of energy. And so if those mitochondria aren't kicking and producing all this healthy energy in the form of ATP, then lo and behold, your cognition starts to slip. You get a little more forgetful. Your retention is not as good. One of the most important things is keeping that mitochondria as healthy as possible. And the things that I mentioned earlier about a low inflammatory diet, keeping carbs down and exercising, all of those things increase mitochondrial biogenesis, or the production of new and healthy mitochondria in your body. And the thing with brains is that even a small drop in energy in the brain cells connotates big things.
Even the smallest amount is something that reduces brain function significantly, because there isn't much room for error, and we need to do whatever we can lifestyle wise, which is what you pointed out at the beginning, and then make some choices around different ways to support the brain function. And I know that we've talked in the past about different parts of natural supplements that really serve to fortify the mitochondria, power up the brain cell, and then reduce inflammation. One of those in particular is Brazilian green bee propolis. What's your experience with that in terms of how you've seen it function within your clinic?
It's one of my favorite nutrients and antioxidants for protecting the blood-brain barrier and protecting brain health. Propolis has this really cool antioxidant we call CAPE. It's caffeic acid phenyl and it's
I liked it better when it was just CAPE.
CAPE. Yeah, we'll call it CAPE. We'll call it the CAPE that protects your brain cells.
Oh, good one.
It's been studied as an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antiviral, antifungal, anti-neoplastic. So it's got this crazy protective benefit, specifically a neuroprotective effect, especially in neurodegenerative diseases. I think the CAPE is one of the antioxidants that are in propolis. It's got many, but it's one of them that I think is probably the main reason that we see such a benefit, in the long term with taking it from a lot of these types of things with brain inflammation and dysregulation and all this oxidative stress to get rid of all that damage that's sitting in there.